We have some tips for you guys today. We're going to give you some ways specifically to deal with conflict when you have conflict come up. Because it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, there's conflict, we need to handle it. But I think it's also helpful to have some tools in your tool belt. So when it comes up, exactly how should we handle it?
Yes.
What should we do things? How do we do it healthfully? Because there's a healthy way to handle conflict and there's a not healthy way to handle conflict. The Business Project Podcast.
Business can be complicated.
We break it down so regular people like us
Can understand and find success. I'm John Crespo, accountant and consultant.
I'm Casey Bryant, marketer and event planner,
If you run a business,
or want to run a business.
welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the Business Project Podcast.
Yeah.
We got some good stuff. Yeah. I'm
love
excited
it.
about this week. I'm excited about every week. Last week we talked about conflict, and it happens all the time. It happens with employees. It happens with customers. It happens with friends and family and teachers and all the things. You have conflict.
Part of life and part of running a business. And, I think one of the highlights of our conversation was don't let it fester, hit it as it happens. And I think that is so important because a lot of people are just afraid to kind of like deal with conflict head on.
I can think of some times in my life too where I had conflict and I was afraid. It's okay to be nervous, do things fearfully, do things scared. But they end up so much better at the end of it, at the back end of it, working through these things. Because it's like there's this tension at the beginning, and yeah, it stinks, but when you can healthfully work through conflict, it can turn into something. Your relationship can be stronger in the back end of it.
For sure. We had this picture painted of how it would potentially turn out, which is always the worst case scenario, right, in our mind. And that's what stops a lot of us. But, if we approach it the right way, utilizing the right tools to approach conflict, then it always ends up in a different way, right? It always ends up for the better, especially if you don't let it fester.
Yeah, don't let it fester. So we have some tips for you guys today. We're going to give you some ways specifically to deal with conflict when you have conflict come up. Because it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, there's conflict, we need to handle it. But I think it's also helpful to have some tools in your tool belt. So when it comes up, exactly how should we handle it?
Yes.
What should we do things? How do we do it healthfully? Because there's a healthy way to handle conflict and there's a not healthy way to handle conflict.
Yes. And we can fall into the trap so easy, especially if we allow our emotions to govern the way we approach it. Oh, that's setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
Take the emotion out of it.
Which is so hard to do.
Yeah, especially in this world. Everything is so emotionally charged, emotionally based, right? You kind of got to separate yourself from that, especially if you're running a business or have a family and you just want to maintain positive relationships. You got to take yourself out of that problem there.
Yeah. I just thought of something I'm going to start us off with that isn't even on our list.
I love it.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
It just popped into my head, which
So we
means
have
it's going to
tools.
be great.
Tools plus a bonus.
Tools plus a bonus. So the first thing I think that you need to do when you have a conflict is define the conflict. Define the problem.
Yeah.
Because you can't find a solution to a problem when you don't even know what the problem is.
I like that. And I think being specific too. So I'll give an example of, and my wife doesn't watch this podcast, so I'm safe.
I'm going to call her and tell her. I'm going to send this one just to her.
Yeah, but and this is probably the same with a lot of relationships, right? I don't know, maybe you and McLean are the same way, right? But there are times, and not all the time, but there are times, especially when we were starting out in our relationship, where if there was a problem, we would talk about it in a general way and wouldn't be specific about what the specific issue is. And I think once we got to the point of being able to pinpoint a specific problem, be specific, just be focused on that particular issue, we were able to resolve it better.
Yeah. Because one thing, there could be like a a rock in your shoe and your foot hurts and then it goes up to your leg and your knee hurts, or you're walking funny, and you could be talking about the fact that you're walking funny and arguing about that when you don't even talk about the rock in your shoe.
Right.
So trying to figure out, back step, okay, we're feeling this way. So what's making us feel this way?
Yep.
Okay, it's this. Okay, so is there anything that's affecting this, that's giving into this? But really figuring out exactly what the problem is, being able to define it, because then you can better come up with some solutions for it.
Yeah, and I like that's the number one, because before you can do all the other tools, you have to really understand what the issue is at hand.
Yeah.
Like what the actual problem is at hand. Very good.
All right, what's
stuff.
another tip?
Stay calm.
Stay calm. Ooh, that's hard.
My glasses are fogging up. I can see them.
Oh, they are fogging up.
Don't mind me.
Stay calm. It's okay.
I'm staying calm. I think staying calm is so important, because if you approach a situation all fired up, man, you're just going to create the person that you're having the issue with to get fired up as well. Mm-hmm. And then no one's going to look past this current energy, right, that's in the room and try to resolve a problem. Then it's just going to end up being a you type of issue.
Now that you say that, I've never ever seen a conflict resolved when people come to it with anger. Mm-hmm. Never. If there's a book that I read, we might have to put it in the notes, because I don't remember what the book was. I just remember that he said that if you're really genuinely coming to a conversation to solve a conflict and the other person gets mad, then you lose. Because you cannot, when they're emotionally charged and they're angry, you cannot get across what you're trying to get across. They're not accepting what you have to say at a rational level. So if the other person gets angry, then you lose.
And you see that a lot in like social issues, right? Our country right now is so emotionally charged. Everyone goes into a particular social problem with the energy level like here, and never doesn't want to take the time to actually listen to each other to try to resolve a problem. And that's why we can't get past where we're at right now. Mm-mm. Because we don't know how to stay calm. Or we know how to stay calm, we just don't want to do it, and we're not controlling our energy level when we go into the situation.
Yeah. And we're not, what's the next one? Because I think this rolls into the next one. Listen to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes when we go to resolve conflict, we go in and we're like passionate about this one thing. We want to make sure we're probably upset about something's bothered us. Maybe we've defined it, and we want to make sure that you understand exactly why I'm upset about this. And so we go in and just all of it, right? We're all over you. But sometimes you can get further in conflict and conversation, conflict resolution and conversation, when you ask questions.
Yeah.
True. When you try to understand where the other person is coming from.
Yeah. So listen to understand versus listen to respond. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're just sitting here with your mind made up on what you're going to do, and your how I feel about you is already made up and not allowing you to actually state your case, then I'm not even paying attention to what you're saying at all. So there's no way I'm listening to understand. I'm just listening to, I'm waiting for you to finish so I can go ahead and start, saying my side of the deal. Mm-hmm. If we actually take the time to just block that off, listen to understand what you're saying, understand what your point is or where you're coming from, then we can understand, hey, this is where we differ then, I guess. We can work to resolve it that way.
One thing I've seen happen over and over and over with my business, situations in my business too, directly related to this, is a lot of times when you go in a conflict resolution, you go in upset about something, you make assumptions that the other person did it for this reason or they did it this way, and you just have it built in your head that that's why they did it or how they did it. But when you really sit down and ask questions versus coming in and saying, you did this and it was wrong because, but if you sit down instead and you stay calm and you ask questions, sometimes when they respond, it's like, oh, I didn't know that's why you did that. And then you resolve the confrontation without even having to get any more into detail. I
love you just answered the next question.
Ask the right questions. Yes.
Because all these kind of play into each other, right? So if you, number one, you stay calm. Number two, you listen to understand. Number three, you ask the right questions. Well, you're setting up the atmosphere of resolution, right? You're creating an atmosphere of resolution. So yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah. And I think a lot of you guys probably already know this. I mean, we're told this over and over again.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we talk about on our podcast. And next week, I want to read a testimonial that we got via email because it was really good. It made me cry.
Yeah, it was good.
But what was I saying about that? Oh yeah. A lot of this you guys already know. And it's just a reminder. And these are things that, we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over and over again in order to finally have it sink in. So
yeah, whether we know it is one thing, how we compose ourselves is another. So this should be looked at as a self-accountability, right? That's why we have to, if we know how to resolve a problem, but we choose not to follow those steps, then we're not essentially wanting to get better, right? Why would you not want to get better, especially if you're running a business, right?
Because it's easier to do it the other way.
And then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
Right. And then we wonder why so many businesses are failing. Right. And it's, aside from finance, aside from not marketing enough, right? We don't know how to handle the problems that come through the business, and we don't do it the right way.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. Oof. All right. What's the next one?
Attack the problem, not the person.
This is a good one. This is something we see every day in politics these days, I think. They don't even, you see these videos of people arguing about something and they don't even talk about what they're arguing about. They talk about each other.
Talk about each other. Yeah. Yep. And it's just that's why nobody even cares anymore, honestly, to watch the news or all those commentaries, because it's draining.
It is draining.
When you spend your time attacking each other, it's so draining.
And you're not actually solving the problem.
No, then it's going to be a cycle. The cycle continues, right? As you switch parties, the cycle continues. You switch leadership, the cycle continues, because everyone is just pointing the finger at someone and not the actual problem at hand.
And what happens with your business, if you have a customer or if you have an employee or if you have a contractor and you're trying to resolve an issue, you can't just attack them and walk away and put your arms up of that relationship. That does absolutely no good. You still have to work with them a lot of times. Even if you're an employee and your boss has several of you guys and you don't have the power to fire another employee. You have to figure out how to talk to them without attacking their character, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because in some businesses, especially if you have employees, you can have an employee that's having performance issues, right? Based on your expectation for running the business and growing the business, this employee may not be living up to the standard, right? But if we approach that employee saying, "You suck," right? Maybe there was an opportunity for that employee to actually, understand what it needs to be done and how to do it the right way, versus them now becoming defensive and saying, "No, you suck. No, you suck." And then I quit.
A growth opportunity. You totally missed out on an opportunity to grow.
Totally missed out on an opportunity.
Yeah.
Not saying that, you shouldn't fire when you have to, right? But if you approach your employees the right way, then there's an opportunity to, what's the word when you're bringing your employees, you're training them, you're building them?
Synergy.
Yeah. Instead of creating synergy, right?
Yeah.
Then you're spending money having to replace people all the time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of businesses struggle with that. Yeah. I know I struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah, it is hard.
You ready for the next one?
I'm ready. I gotta take a sip of my coffee. My throat is dry.
I had to do that too. I need that caffeine. Accentuate the positive.
This is another hard one, especially when you're upset about something.
Yeah, if you're too busy pointing fingers at everybody, how are you gonna accentuate a positive anyway?
Yeah.
It's if you're too busy focusing on the actual individual versus the problem, then there's no positivity to accentuate at all.
That's when they say to do the sandwich.
Yes.
You come in with something positive and then you talk about something, the conflict and then you end with something positive, the
Yep.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there is positives. I feel like in almost every situation, you can find something positive from it.
Right. I agree. Yeah, that sandwich method. I remember that when I was in the corporate world. They used that a lot, or that analogy a lot, or whatever, the acronym a lot. But it's true. If you keep the conversation as positive as possible while working on the problem at hand, then you kind of get more buy-in from the person that you're, trying to resolve the problem with.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes when especially if you've let the problem go on longer than it should, it's like that one person that irritates you. And I'm just going to be transparent because I know you guys can relate to this and it's not just me, but there's that one person that irritates you. They did something that really just got under your skin. And then every time you're in a place with that person, it's like everything they do, you're like, why'd they do that? Or what'd they do this? Or
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And you get to, even though maybe that person has some really great qualities, you get to where your mind only sees the things that irritate you about that person. And I think that happens with conflict too, is instead of, especially if it's over and over and over again, instead of turning your mind to also see the positives in that situation, you're just like finding that one thing that irritates you, or just purposely, because you almost want to make yourself right.
Yeah.
So like this person is a bad person, and so you just find all these bad things about them so that you can be right about how you feel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so true. It builds resentment and bitterness. Ooh, those are bad.
Bad.
Very bad.
Very bad.
And you know what? Just going back to the sandwich thing, another thing that I got from corporate America is self-discovery, right? So if you're dealing with your employees, right, and you approach the situation positive, and you use the sandwich method, right? Positive, problem, positive. You allow that person to kind of say, oh yeah, you know what? There is a better way to do this, or there is a better way to approach this problem. So essentially, they're discovering within themselves that they can do better, right? Or they can resolve that problem in a better way. So this builds self-discovery.
Because they're not feeling attacked.
Yep.
They're feeling like you're genuinely there to help.
Yeah. Remember that. Ready?
Yep, ready.
Solution focused.
Solution focus. We kind of touched on that one a little bit already.
Yeah.
That is, if you can't define the problem, like we talked about at the very beginning, then you're not going to be able to find a solution.
Yeah. Yep.
And all the conversation needs to be geared towards not attacking the person, not random other things that you're upset about, but figuring out a solution to this conflict.
Yep. So we'll just move on.
Yeah.
Pick your battles.
Ooh. All you husbands and wives out there.
So what does that mean? Pick your battles.
Not to complain about the pile of socks on the side of the bed.
Right. Not to be a nag. Right. If you don't pick your battles and you complain about everything, you're essentially a nag.
Yes. Yeah. And that can go back to also the, focusing on the positive. If you're focusing on the negative of every situation
Yep.
and you're vocalizing that, then it's just nobody's going to want to listen to somebody that complains about everything.
Yeah. Isn't there, like in the Bible, doesn't the Bible talk about a nagging spouse?
Yes, it does.
What is it? Better to be on the corner, crouched in the corner on a roof somewhere than dealing with a nagging spouse or wife or husband or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think it's a wife. I think
Yeah.
it talks about a nagging wife.
Yeah, but it works both ways. Like, let's say spouse, right? Partner, whatever you want to say.
Employee,
Yes,
boss.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So nagging is not good. Nagging just, accentuates the issue so much more, right? So being focused on the problem, picking the actual issue is going to help you get to the other side of things and relieve all that nagging. Because when you fix the main problem, then all that other stuff doesn't matter as much.
No. Gas station coffee is so good.
It is.
Just kidding.
It's hitting the spot today.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
All right. So don't be a nag.
Don't be a nag. No nagging.
Celebrate agreement.
Celebrate agreement. Yeah, because even the little things, if there's one little tiny part that you can agree on, start there.
Yeah. Yep.
Even if it's not a big.
So I like that when the self-discovery happens, that's time for celebration, right? When the person that you're working the problem through with, the light bulb comes on, then it's like, yeah, boom, we got it.
Yeah.
And then you're able to steer and row the boat in the same direction instead of fighting each other.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're trying to build a house of cards and you have those 4 cards that you're trying, like the base of the cards that you're trying to get up, and then one falls, and then you get 3 up, and then one falls, and then finally you get that foundation and you get a starting place to build your tower. It's like that is where you celebrate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
You don't get upset that the whole tower's not built yet. You get excited that you got the base done.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love your analogies sometimes.
I know.
You come up with some good stuff.
So smart.
Some mic drops. So that's good. So that's our list. So if any of these resonated with you, we know they did because they resonate with us because we're all humans.
And conflict is in everyday life.
Yeah, it's in everyday life. Remember, the first thing is holding yourself accountable. Start with that, hold yourself accountable, and then you're able to focus on resolving conflict. Should we list out these things again?
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
Okay. What was the first one?
Defining the problem.
Defining the problem. So the number one thing is define the problem. Right? Then we stay calm, listen to understand, ask the right questions, attack the problem, not the person, accentuate the positive, solution focused, pick your battles, and celebrate agreement.
That's all good stuff.
Write that stuff down and remind yourself of the steps to take before you go into a problem.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys. What is another way that you deal with conflict that is a healthy, don't say bad things.
Yeah.
That's a healthy way to deal with conflict. Because I'm sure there's people out there that are really great at this.
Yeah.
They just rock it.
You know what I'd like to hear, though? What are some conflicts that weren't resolved the right way, and how did that end up for you?
Yeah, don't name names.
I want to hear that
too. Tell us about that too. Yeah.
I can tell some stories on that one, for
Maybe
sure.
next time do a whole episode. All right.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, I know it sounds like such a small little thing, but commenting on our posts and our videos, liking it, sharing it with a friend, giving us a 5-star review anywhere that you're listening to this podcast makes such a big difference. We're not putting money into advertising it right now. We're just it's a free thing that we're doing, and we're trying to just slowly grow the audience. And y'all, we're getting some really cool testimonials. Next week we'll read a testimonial that we've gotten from somebody that started listening to the podcast. And so just doing those things is just an amazing way to help us out. We really appreciate it.
I love that. And my thing is, if we can just touch one person, then we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I love it.
All right.
See y'all next
See
time.
ya.